and welcome to today's Water Cooler Chat, How to Say No Effectively, hosted by Virtual Patent Gateway. Virtual Patent Gateway founder Ashley Chung has a passion for supporting women in the workplace and is committed to developing a growth mindset within VPG. Joining us for today's discussion is Trish Alatorre-Ridings, Senior Director for Trustpoint.one. For over 20 years, Trish has helped clients with direct hire and temporary staffing solutions, as well as e-discovery, translations, and court reporting. This webinar will be recorded for future use. There will be a short presentation followed by open discussion. We encourage you to keep your video on for this session. And with that, I'll hand it over to Trish.
Excellent. Thank you, Caitlin and Ashley, and certainly thank you, VPG, for inviting me to talk today. And we want this to be an open discussion. It's a water cooler chat. So, feel free to, chime in and participate. We all come from different walks of life, professionally and personally. So that's what adds to these types of discussions, is because we all have a different view. So today we're going to talk about how to learn to say no professionally. And it can be tricky. I mean, it's one of those things that if you don't say it correctly, it can be harmful to friends, colleagues, your profession, your manager. And for today's discussion, we're going to keep it on the professional side. We don't want to get into personal issues. So we want to keep it on the professional side and hopefully just have a discussion of how you can say no. So as we all know, any relationship, it's a give and take. Our employer is the same way. Our colleagues are the same way. It's a team environment, and we want to all be team players, right? So, we want to be able to participate. We want to be able to be part of the team. We want to contribute, but there are times where agreeing to do something or a task that perhaps you don't have time for, or you don't have the experience for, isn't really the right way to go. So, we have to consider a couple factors that can help us with this learning how to say no. And so, as indicated here, you can start in a couple of ways. So you can make a statement, and it can be, a statement such as, I'd love to help. I'd really like to do this. It sounds like a great assignment, but I'm sorry. Unfortunately, at this time, I just have too much on my plate. You can explain why. Again, I'm really busy right now. I can perhaps check with my manager to see if I can reprioritize some things. But right now, I want to give my full, and I wouldn't be able to give my full effort. So therefore, I'm going to pass. And then you can also offer an alternative if there is one. If there's an alternative possible, you can say something along the lines, this is great. I might be able to do it, but not today. Is there a deadline? Can the deadline be extended? Can I do it next week? Or, perhaps I'm not available. Perhaps somebody else on the team is available to help with this. So, there's a lot of things that we work within in our groups and our social settings and our work experiences. But what you want to do is to just make sure that, saying no, you're doing it professionally. We all have to, be careful in the workplace. We want to be honest, but we also want to be professional. So, consider things such as, do I have the time? Because you don't want to overcommit. You want to be true to yourself and make sure that you would have the time to do the project or the assignment correctly within the time frame that's necessary. And, just make sure that it's going to get done. One of the things you want to consider is, do I have the right experience? Hopefully, if they're coming to you, you have the right experience, but you want to make sure that you do have the right experience, again, to make sure that the project or assignment gets done correctly. You can also consider, how's this going to affect the team if I say no? Is this going to put more work on the other team members, which, could come back and not be favorable to me? Is it something that, somebody else maybe is better at, which is a favorable outcome? But you just want to consider that as well, as how is it going to affect your colleagues? How's it going to affect your team? How's it going to affect others around you? And again, we've talked a little bit about, is there flexibility? Is there some flexibility in, how this is going to get done, or the time frame, or the project itself? So, to start off with, I listed here on the next slide a couple of different ways that you can, they're just examples of saying no. And I'm not going to read through them, but you can take a quick look. And, obviously it's always a compliment when somebody comes to you to ask you to help with something, to help with a project or help with the assignment. So you have to look at that, hey, this is great. They're coming to me, so they think I'm the right person to help them get this done. But you also want to consider, again, do I have the time to do it? Or am I at capacity? Are there other things that are taking precedence? Maybe can I have some flexibility in how I can get this done? Or is there perhaps somebody that I know of that is better for this particular assignment? So, keep these in mind. And certainly, again, open to the floor, anybody in the audience, if they have other thoughts and suggestions. But these are just a few that I came up with. I've been a manager for a long time. I've had people say no to me. I've had people that say, I just can't do it right now. And we can work with it. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. If it's a court deadline, obviously you can't. If it's something that, has a little bit of flexibility, then certainly, you have to decide whether you can help and whether it's going to be a good time, good use of your time, as well as, helping to contribute. So today we thought we'd have, just run through a couple examples. And again, love your feedback, would appreciate any thoughts and consideration. These are just a couple things that, VPG has come up with. So we're going to just show an example, I guess, and kind of walk through it and see what everybody thinks.
Imagine this. It's the day before Thanksgiving. At 5 p.m., you got an email from your boss indicating that she needs some help with a project on Black Friday. You have a prior engagement at 6 p.m. on Black Friday. You want to be a team player, and your boss indicated that it is okay for you to say no because she recognizes that it's Black Friday. What questions would you ask before you say no to your boss to help guard your personal boundaries, yet be seen as a team player?
So this is just a quick example that we thought we would toss out. So any thoughts from anyone? Go ahead, Ashley.
Well, first of all, this is actually real life example. It happened. So the thought is actually, I had one of my team member, she wanted to actually, she actually has a full-time job. And then, so when I asked her to do stuff, a lot of times she recognizes that when I ask her to do things, she might not have the time to do it. So she typically would try to ask me on, like, I cannot do it on this particular day. Do you think that I can actually have an extension, or can we do it another day? Now, I happen to need to have some binders QC. So I'm like, maybe we'll just do it on Black Friday. But it's, for me, it doesn't really matter, but I do recognize this a lot of times people will probably want to guard the holidays. And coming from a litigation background, I didn't quite have that much boundaries in terms of what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. So I think this is one of the topics that I think is really important, because saying no does not mean you don't do your job. Especially if you're in sort of like corporation, maybe not as much corporation, but if you are in litigation, even when you walk in, you may not know what you signed up for. Eventually, you know what you signed up for. So saying no, it depends on who you're saying it to. To me, it's like really a negotiation. Maybe you cannot do something on this particular day, but you show good faith to say, to actually understand the ramification of you saying no. And if it's something like life and death situation, if it's something that that you have to really reserve your time for something really critical, I think that is important. But overall, I think that the no, I just want to emphasize, it does not mean you don't do your job. So your boss will get
Absolutely.
really tired very quickly. As the manager before, if I continue to have people say no to me every single time, I don't know how well I would receive it. Just wanted to play devil's advocate from on that and from that point of view. And I would really like to hear feedback from you.